But anyway, regulation of blood pressure is another. Now this one you don't have either. Production of hormones. The kidneys, now this one you're familiar with. There's another one though, right here, calcitrol, which helps regulate calcium homeostasis. So production of hormones. One we've already talked about, erythropoietin. The kidneys also produce a hormone called calcitrol, which is involved in regulating calcium homeostasis, or steady state of calcium. So the kidneys, we think of excretion. Kidneys also regulate blood ions, regulation of pH, we know we excrete excess hydrogen. We'll talk about how that's done too. We excrete excess hydrogen conserved bicarbonate. Bicarbonate, y'all, is a buffer. That's HCO3 negative. And that is a buffer. Regulation of blood pressure, and definitely regulate blood pressure. All right, so that's important. And then production of hormones. Hormones such as, and the regulation of blood pressure is primarily through the renin-angiotensin mechanism. And then production of hormones, erythropoietin and calcitrol. Kidneys do all that for us. Regulation of blood volume by conserving or eliminating water. Okay, now several things come into play here. You might make a note here, regulating blood volume by conserving or eliminating water. Now, who plays a major role here are some hormones that have an effect. One hormone called, we talked about this in 2401, the ADH. You remember ADH, antidiuretic? It plays a role with this. ADH plays a role. That's antidiuretic. Another hormone plays a role here. That's aldosterone. ALDOSTERONE. Aldosterone also plays a role here. And there are a couple of other things in here which that help regulate blood volume by conserving or eliminating water. And so this is important. Like, for example, I go back to this excess use of alcohol. Drinking a lot of alcohol will work to dehydrate you, because if a person drinks a lot of alcohol, you all know this, they're going to have to urinate. If they keep drinking, constant urination, having to go to the bathroom, it's going to work against homeostasis. In other words, it's going to work against water balance. But most people pass out where they, whatever, get into real serious problems. But it will work against a person. And so, so that comes to mind. All right, now right here, another thing, everybody, right here, well, I just put right here, I have some functions unrelated to your introduction. Well, I already have, that's on there. Erythropoietin, producing renin, that's involved in, so I just put, I've already mentioned erythropoietin. I've already mentioned some of those things. And renin, I mentioned that. Renin is an enzyme which converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Renin, that plays an that one right there, y'all. Renin plays an important role in blood pressure regulation. And that erythropoietin, of course, obviously plays a role in blood cell production. So and there's some other things, but I just put that right in there so you would be aware of that. And of course, the calcitrol, and I should have deleted that right there this morning, but because it's kind of mentioned in the first ones. But that is unrelated. There's some other things unrelated to urine production, but that's just two. Those are two standouts. Those are two real standouts right there. Renin, remember, involved in blood pressure regulation, and erythropoietin involved in what? Blood cell production. Okay, so that's all pretty important. Now, components. Now, most of this stuff right here you know from the cat. This stuff right here is not a big issue. This is kind of fluffy stuff. There's nothing hard about this stuff. There's really, the only time it gets a little, and it's not really hard, the only time it gets a little bit, where I don't like to use the word hard and easy, is when we start talking about the functions of the kidney, the actual function. Reabsorption, the function of the nephron. Reabsorption, filtration, reabsorption, and tubular secretion. That's in urinary 2. Most of the stuff in urinary 1, though, is easy. I mean, it's just, you can look at pictures. Most of it's just, it's easy. And how many of you know anybody that maybe has one kidney? other than me. Okay? I had one son that was born, and there was an old doctor, and I can't remember the old doctor's name. He was a pediatrician. And he'd take these newborn babies, and this guy was about as tall as this doorstep, right about like Yao Ming. He was about this tall, right about like this. He had hands about as big as this door. And he would, and his name, I can't think of his name right now, it'll come to me in a minute. He'd take these newborn babies and he's kind of flip them. And the mothers go, oh, what are you doing? He'd just kind of flip them and he'd mash them. He'd mash on the newborn, you know, like that. And the mother's, you know. Well, anyway, he felt a knot, something unusual there. And this baby had a multicystic kidney. He was born with one kidney that was non-functional. Now they leave them in place. They don't take them out. Now they leave them in place. And but back in those days, he was operated on at a very young age, maybe by the age of 3 months, 2 or 3 months. He was operated on and removed a kidney. Now he's done quite well. You know, he played. The only sport he didn't play was high school football. Because of having one kidney. He played in junior high as a quarterback. Played in junior high. Played baseball in high school and college and that sort of thing. He ran. And now he's about 38 or 39 now, and he watches his blood pressure very carefully. Being in the medical profession, he watches his blood pressure because hypertension runs in our family. He's a thin guy, about 6 foot tall, weighs probably about 175, and he works out, runs, but he watches his blood pressure. He watches his blood pressure because he's got one kidney, and so it doesn't impair him in any way, no problem. But watches stuff, So that's the key thing. 2 kidneys. Remember, 1/2 of one kidney has enough nephrons to clean the blood up. Okay, has enough nephrons to clean the blood. So 1/2 of one kidney is all a person really needs. But you and I, unless you're like him, you and I both have 2 kidneys. So we've got a backup mechanism. Okay, we've got 2 that keeps our blood clean. But the kidneys produce urine. Obviously, they do that along with other things we said. All right, then right here, the ureters, obviously. Sometimes the ureters get kinked, and that can be a problem. The ureters go from the kidney to the bladder, okay? And that can be a problem, all right? And then the bladder, and then the urethra transports the urine to the outside. Well, you're familiar with it. You know this from doing the cat. We did all that. You're familiar with the kidney, the ureter, the bladder, and the urethra. All right, and so there it is right there. Now that kind of gives a little bit of an idea. I think this is out of your book that might be out of the book by Tutora, I'm not sure. But anyway, that just kind of gives an overall view of the system, of the setup. I don't know anything. All right, but anyway, that's just kind of showing the ureter, the bladder down here. That's obviously of a female, showing the uterus. And then the urethra going to the exterior of the body. So that's just kind of showing an overview. Now I will tell you this, these adrenal glands are sometimes called suprarenal glands. Suprarenal, if you ever hear somebody use the term suprarenal, that they're talking about the adrenal glands. That might be a new term for you, but that's used a lot of times in the literature. The suprarenal, the suprarenal. What? The adrenal glands, the suprarenal, or adrenal. So you might hear that term used somewhat. And the adrenal glands, of course, have the adrenal cortex and adrenal. You can live without the adrenal medulla. You and I can't live without the adrenal cortex. The adrenal cortex deficiency there causes Addison's disease. And that's, you and I can't, it can be treated though. It can be dealt with replacement. Glucocorticoid replacement, mineralocorticoid replacement, that can be dealt with. But there's kind of an overview of that system right there. Now, embryonic development. Now, on this, one time, y'all, I had a course, a seminar in an evolution. And we were given the final exam question on the first day. The first day of the class, we were given, it was a 1-hour course. And we had to give talks in it. And the final exam question was, trace animal evolution on the basis of the origin and development and evolution of the kidney. And to make a long story very short, had to go all the way back to the protozoans where there's diffusion. Go through the crayfish with the green gland, the nephridia in some other organism, I've forgotten all that stuff, in the invertebrate animals, and go on up through the pronephros, mesonephros, metanephros kidney. And you and I have a metanephros kidney. And so, so anyway, in development, I'm gonna tell you what you need to be aware of right here. And it gets not this. In other words, the kidneys develop from mesoderm. Y'all may, Virgil, y'all may or may not remember. Y'all may or may not remember the word somite. S-O-M-I-T-E. We talked about somites. You may or may not remember somites. But the somites, remember remember the term myotome, M-Y-O-T-O-M-E. Myotome, you remember the term sclerotome, S-C-L-E-R-O-T-O-M-E. Do you remember the term dermatome, D-E-R-M-A-T-O-M-E? Now this is part of a somite. What is a somite? A body segment. Now there's some mesoderm that's lateral to the somite. The somite, the myotome is responsible for trunk muscle. Remember, like the pectoralis muscle, latissimus, these things. All right, the sclerotome is responsible for the formation of like the vertebra. And the dermatome is responsible for the dermis of the skin. Y'all might remember, may not remember that. Now there's mesoderm lateral to this. Lateral to this is responsible for the development of the kidney. And I have up here on the board, on this thing right here, I have intermediate mesoderm that forms, probably should be, just lateral to the somites. A somite is a body segment. You and I all had body segments when we were embryos. We had little segments. All right, now, right here, let me show you. No, I said right here, note somites give rise to the vertebral column and the trunk muscles, and I put right here. Now I did this morning, early this morning, because I figured you probably had forgotten this. I put, remember, sclerotome, dermatome, and myotome in 2 question marks. How many of you remember that vaguely? Once I repeat it. Okay, yeah, you remember it, you kind of remember it once I repeat.